Howdy, and welcome to the show. Cooper's Code examines a legal issue and hits the highlights so we all achieve the best results for our clients. I'm Miles Cooper, and with today's guest, Hendrick White, Pre-litigation Manager, we'll be discussing the decision to go to law school, as well as the mechanics that go into preparing for taking the bar exam, given Hendrick's most recent experience. Welcome back to the show, Hendrick.
Thanks for having me.
And welcome back to real life.
Yeah, it's over.
So to give people some background, were you doing anything in the last week or two that might have taken some effort?
Yeah, I did the California State Bar exam last week.
With that in mind, I want to take us back a little bit to help us all understand a little bit about your decision to go to law school. Was that something that you did straight out of college?
No, like 15 years out of college. At one point when I was in college, I thought maybe I'll go to law school after college, but that didn't ever happen. And then I ended up going to law school in 2019, fall 2019. And I actually had taken the LSAT in 2011. So I almost went to law school in 2011. Took the LSAT and never applied to any law schools at all. And then changed my mind. Well, what would that be, like 8 years later?
For those who are evaluating a decision to go to law school, whether it's straight out of college or 15 years down the line, what would you tell them in terms of your decision to go? Was it the right decision, and why?
For me, I think it was the right decision. It wasn't like a no-brainer. Obviously, it took me 15 years to decide to actually pull the trigger on it. But for me, it was like 2011. I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to become a lawyer. I think I was in my early 30s then. I was like, well, maybe I'll have another career path or something. I took the LSATs and I don't know if I could pull the trigger. I don't want to take more student loan debt in. I'm not 100% sure I want to take this route. So fast forward another 7 years. I got married in 2018, and on the honeymoon, I started talking to my wife and just like, I feel like I've kind of hit the ceiling here with my position. Like a paralegal. I've done it for, at that point in time, it had been 10 years already, and probably in Paris or something. After a night out, I decided that, hey, I'm going to talk to the partners at the firm about, next steps. We didn't really pull the trigger on whether I would go to law school or not. I was just like, I need to find out what the vision is here. And when I got back, I talked to one of the partners, and I was like, I kind of feel like I want to be able to go in like a managing position or something like that. And he said, maybe you should think about going to law school, because I don't have that vision of being that big of a firm at that point in time. That idea of going back to law school clicked in my mind. And I talked to you, Marianne, about it. And you guys all thought it was a really good idea, which gave me the confidence that I could do it. I mean, and I'm coming from, my dad didn't go to high school.
Wow.
And my mom never went to college. So there wasn't like, Uncle Jack did that, or I didn't have like the professional kind of pedigree, I guess. You really don't know, like, is that possible for me to do this? I don't know. I mean, I did good in school and stuff like that, but I guess I never had like the big dream that you could do something like that. But after talking to you guys, I felt comfortable with it. My wife was totally on board, wanted me to do it. And we talked about like what kind of sacrifices it's going to take. I was going to do night school and work the whole time, which would have been 4 years. It took 4 years to do that. And basically pulled the triggers. I ended up having to take the LSATs again because my scores had expired, and applied and ended up going, fast forward 4 more years, and then ended up taking the bar.
I imagine those 4 years were challenging.
Yeah, it was really difficult. And I talked to other attorneys, don't do it unless you really want it, because it's not fun. And looking back, I think I told my wife a couple of days ago, looking back, I was like, there was very few fun moments in law school. I can't recall a good time. And I had a pandemic in there too, so I might have hampered it.
That was the direction I was going to go. I was just about to disagree with you because, I mean, you got the joy of doing law school on TV.
I don't know if that was a joy.
Oh, I'm being sarcastic.
Okay. Yeah. I did not enjoy the screen teaching at all. It was like 2 years of all my classes online. I ended up having ADD watching the screen that long. I'm just like, I don't know what anybody's talking about right now. because I just dozed off or something. And it's different not being in person and just having that fear. That there's some students that I graduated with that, didn't really have any in-person classes.
Wow.
Yeah. So you kind of, especially in 1L, when you're just, that fear of getting cold called and making sure that you have something to talk about on all the cases that you're assigned. I think that's a good experience to have in law school. So it was definitely a different law school experience than what most people probably have had.
From a summary version, if someone's considering going, sounds like they have to want it because it's not particularly fun, whether it's on Zoom or not. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think you want it. It's going to take a chunk of your decade.
Yeah.
There's not much fun about it. It's stressful. It's a lot of work. I mean, if you want to do good, it's a lot of work. And it's a lot of competition, which you kind of need to have a little bit of that to be successful, I think, in law school. If you don't like competition, it's probably not going to be fun for you at all. So for me, I felt like I needed to do something bigger with my life. So that was one of my motivators. I needed to do something higher in education, I think, is what I'm getting at. I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
Okay. Just reminded me of like, oh, what if when I have kids, we didn't have them at the time I went, but when I have kids, what do I do for career day? For some reason, that was like, I didn't want to have to explain what's the difference between a paralegal and an attorney or something like that. I was like, I kind of wanted to be like, I'm an attorney. This is what I do. If I ever had to go to career day, it's kind of a weird thing. The other motivation was I want to show my children that they can reach those heights if they want to. That was kind of my main motivation to get through everything.
And I do want to say, in the military, they refer to somebody who goes from enlisted to officer as a Mustang. And I see a parallel in law firms with, you'll find people who go from being a paralegal to being a lawyer. And I started out as a schlepper, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to law school, and I worked at a law firm, and it took some talking to make me go. We have a number of people at our firm who are Mustangs, in essence. It is a perfectly respectable and honorable job to do anything at a law firm. All of them help the client at the end of the day. And for some people, they want that extra stress and extra effort that goes with going to law school and taking the bar and having the ability to stand in court and stand up for a client. And all of the positions, whether you're a paralegal or not, I would say if you show up in Kindergarten Cop, are respectable.
Yeah. I kind of felt like I needed a next step is what it was.
And I think for some people, that's definitely true. And the nice thing is with law school, with the night programs, and I want to share, I think I shared this with you, the school that you went to, I got the impression from going to graduation, there were a lot of people in similar shoes as you, where they may be the first person in their family to have gone to college or to maybe be a citizen or to go to law school. And the joy that was in that room for graduation was probably a highlight of my year.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. Like being in the night program through the pandemic,
yeah,
you don't get to meet a lot of people in person.
Yeah.
Because the night program, you're kind of there's like 30 of us with occasional day students that get into some of our classes at night for various reasons. So there's a lot of people at the graduation that I never really even seen before.
Yeah.
I almost thought I was at like a concert.
Yeah.
Like every name was like a huge roar from the crowd, like every name that was called out. It was a really nice experience.
And having gone to a school that also has a night program and having worked with people who have gone to top law schools and people who have gone to schools that they're not number one or number two in terms of whatever the lists are for best schools in the country, beware the person from a night program.
Yeah. Scrappy.
Well, yeah. I've worked with clerks. I've worked with lawyers. The folks who have come up by their bootstraps have a chip on their shoulder and they will knock you off, whether you went to a white shoe firm or not. Yeah.
Definitely. And you see that in the classroom too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
It sounds to me like, looking back at the 4 years, despite the difficulty, it was the right decision for you. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, definitely totally worth it for me. Part of me wishes I would have had this come to Jesus moment 10 years earlier, but everything kind of works out how it's supposed to, and that's how it worked out for me. But yeah, no regrets at all.
Let's now turn it to the bar and setting the groundwork in place to be successful. A lot of our listeners are going to have already gone through the bar process. And one of the things that I think people can get from listening to this is a little bit of a trip down memory lane of, oh, yeah, that. Because everyone does it, and everyone does it in their own way. And some get it one and done, and some get the opportunity to do it a few more times. And all of them still practice law. How did you do the groundwork to be able to go through that really challenging process of having to focus for months to cram all that information in so that you pass the first time?
Yeah, everyone has their bar story.
And now I'm looking for yours.
Yeah. My story, well, first off, I hope I never have to do that again. Let's start there.
And I hope that for you as well.
I've never prepared to that degree for something ever. That was a lot of work. I hope I never have to do that again. But one of the first things I did, had a 2-year-old, and we kind of had like a nanny share 3 days a week, which basically right after nap or right after lunch, it's kind of like Lord of the Flies happening. They're taking machetes to my door, trying to study. I needed a quiet space. So my wife actually found a doctor's office a couple blocks away, and I rented a room out of there for 3 months, which was very helpful. It was like a short, I wanted somewhere where I'm not going to spend, I mean, I could have came to our office, but that's like 45-minute commute each way. I'm burning time. This was like a few block walk and in the same neighborhood. So that was really nice. So I got that squared away right in the beginning of May. And then my wife had a work event for like 4 days in San Diego, which was going to happen like 1 week into when I was supposed to start. And I was like, oh God, I got to take a break right in the middle of starting this bar prep program. I ended up doing Themis. It was offered free through our school, and maybe it was incorporated into our tuition. I don't know. We'll say it was free. So I started early. Basically, I took finals, took 2 days off, and then I just started because I wanted to make sure I got through like at least 90% of the program. The stats on it, you could do 75%. There's like an 80-something% pass rate. The closer you get to 100%, the higher the pass rate is. So my goal in my mind was the firm, you and Marianne, were really, really helpful by letting me take the leave. And I didn't want to like squander that opportunity. So I want to maximize my time here. I only want to do this once. So I'm going to give it as much effort as I can and try to maximize all my time to make sure I get through this course, I get through this bar without burning out, passing it, which I hope happens. So yeah, I started off early May and basically kind of got into my office around like 8:30 a.m. and stayed there till about 6 on average. Went for a walk for lunch for like an hour or so just to get outside, and came back, did the bath time with the baby and got him to sleep, and then worked on something until 10 p.m. every night. So like 8 to 10. I just did that over and over again for about 3 months, 2.5 months. My experience was isolating. It's very lonely. A lonely experience doing that by yourself in a little tiny doctor's office. And I felt like losing connection with my family halfway through. My son stopped, if he kind of fell and like bumped his knee or something, he would run straight to his mom. And before that, he would, if I was nearby, he would run to me to have him hold him. But he would say, no, mama. So like I started noticing like behavior changes like that. Yeah. I'm like, wow, I need to get through this and not have to do this again. Missing out on family time and stuff like that. Some days I'd be like, all the practice quizzes I did, I nailed. I'm totally getting like these subjects, which I never thought I would be good at. And then the next day just bombs, just back and forth through each day, just a couple of good days in a row and then a couple of terrible ones. You're like, oh man, I don't know how is this going to go.
When you had that evolution of a couple of days of bombs, how did you pick yourself back up? What tools did you use to keep yourself going?
Just remembering why I'm doing this. Those 3 things in the beginning of why I went to law school, and just keeping like the goal, doing this for family, for yourself, and just keeping that focus on there. Another really, really nice thing that happened, my son, like 5:30 every night, He'd be at the window with whatever toy he was playing with that day, waiting for me he knew what street I would walk down. That was enough to like keep going for the next day.
Yeah. What I'm hearing as kind of a steady theme is a variant of getting in the reps. That as isolating as it is, as challenging as the time away from the family might be, that having a plan and getting through it and doing it was a way of making sure you stayed on target.
Yeah. Everyone that's gone through this, like with Barbary or something, the like first like 2 months, you're just 6 hours of lecture videos, or if you were in person, you had to sit through lectures all morning, and then you're doing practice essays, and just the monotony starts getting to you after like a month. You're like, oh my God, I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. And then I was doing really good in the beginning on my like practice scores. And then I think I remember right before I took my first sim exam, which was basically going through the 2-day, all day essay PT thing, and then the MBEs the next day. I took that right after I finished like the last subject of outlines. And then all of a sudden I took that sim, I was like, everything's scrambled. When you have like 7 subjects, you're like, hey, I got this I can see the outlines in my head. But after like adding like, like when you're on like the 16th subject or something, however you calculate it, a day or two after you finish that, start mixing everything up. And that's when I took the sim. I was like, oh geez, I got 4 weeks to get this all ironed out. I didn't do terrible on that sim. I think I got a 65 on the morning session and like a 60 on the afternoon. But that was a good experience because I was like, okay, it's not just knowing this, it's being able to do this for 6 hours. Because obviously the afternoon sessions, my scores drop. You lose the focus. And
let's get to the exam itself. And you took the exam at the Oakland location. What steps did you take to minimize risks of failure, say physical plant or getting to the location or distractions on the home front?
I got a room at the Marriott's connected to the convention center there. I needed to just be in the zone for 2 nights or whatever. If I came home, get out of the zone, lose the focus, it was hard to be away from the family. That was the first time I had been away by myself since my son was born. So yeah, that was another experience to go through. I got a room, which I think was a really good idea for me. And just like the night before, just kind of going through my, final outlines of all the essay subjects, getting room service, and just kind of locked myself in that room that the day before. And then I think my biggest fear for the essay day at that point was, what do I have to do if I have to go to the bathroom? Because you can't pause the clock. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like really concerned about training myself leading up to that. It's kind of overwhelming that morning. I get to the front of the convention center and the line, it was wrapping around it's like a huge long block. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go to the end. And, it was almost wrapped around like a big, huge block. I was like, there's so many people here. But, getting in there, getting settled, getting your plan in your head. Like for me, it was like, I hope I don't come across an essay where I'm like, I don't know how to deal with this. That was one fear I had, which didn't happen. So I was like, okay, at least that didn't happen. And I just wanted to make sure like, hey, get 1,000+ words on each essay and that you're going to have enough analysis and hopefully you hit enough of the issues that you pass. If I'm only pumping out 500, 600 words on these, I'm going to have issues. So I wanted to make sure like I was going the full time. In the practice ones, maybe I would like write for 20 minutes and go use the restroom, and you're just making sure like, hey, you just got to do this for 3 hours straight and just try to get your mind in that mindset. I mean, that's how I did it. And try not to be distracted by, the other thousands of people in that same room typing away. I had earplugs.
I remember the effort being not getting distracted by people talking either before or after an exam in terms of I didn't see that. I must have completely screwed up.
Mm-hmm. I ran out of there.
Yeah.
I did not want to hear about the issues I missed.
Yeah.
The school I went to was Golden Gate, and they had a really good bar mentoring program during that time. I was assigned to a professor that I met with every Tuesday for a half hour on Zoom and just kind of go over how I'm feeling about things and any questions I had. And they also gave like kind of updates on what to expect during each phase of the prep. And I remember they sent out an email a day or two before the bar And it was like, it was the Fight Club's saying the first rule of the bar exam is don't talk about the bar exam. So I knew to, don't listen on people talking about the test afterwards. It'll give you, get you in the wrong headspace. Make sure I didn't have that happen.
Is there anything beyond what you shared that you think would help somebody who's thinking about going to law school and approaching the bar exam kind of be well prepared to be successful in the process?
Yeah, for me, it was just like, I wanted to make sure I did everything I could. Maybe it was too much or maybe it wasn't enough. I don't know yet. I'll find out, in November.
And not just you. We didn't talk about this beforehand. We're going to start doing some of our podcasting using either Facebook Live or Instagram Live. And we're going to invite everyone to join us as we real time with you see your bar results.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that's not going to make you uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
But I will share with you my bar results story. When I got my bar results, it was the first year that they were doing it online. There was one computer in the office that was connected to the internet. And my mentor, partner, friend, Cynthia, decided that it would be a good idea to invite people to stick around. They were going to be available at 6:30. And so folks had drinks and hung out and waited for the results to come up. And unbeknownst to any one of us, the default setting when the state bar got jammed, they certainly didn't want you to think that you passed. So the default setting was, I'm sorry, your name does not appear on the state bar pass list. So when the site got jammed, I, along with many, many others, got that as the result. And for about 45 minutes, I sat in a corner, sipping on a beverage, in complete depression, thinking that I was going to have to go through the bar exam again. I tell this story in part from the horror of having to go through that feeling, because I don't know that I've ever felt as low as at that point up to then. I've had some other low points. Finding out your daughter has cancer's not so good either. But the other piece of it is a testament to trial attorneys and a never give up attitude, because Cynthia was convinced that they were wrong. And she sat there for 45 minutes putting my name and my code in again and again and again and again until my name came up on the list.
Wow.
So I feel that experience was so joyous that I want to make sure that we share it with all of our listeners for you. How's that sound?
That's awesome. I feel like there's a little NIED there.
Yeah.
That's a good bar essay question.
Yeah. Well, anything else do you think we should talk about on this episode for folks?
I guess the takeaways are know your reason and use that for motivation and do everything you can to set yourself up for success and, leave it up to the bar gods after you do it. Another thing that didn't happen until after the bar is, and it's been 8 days, I've had 2 nights of nightmares.
Wow.
Not back to back. I think it's after having to talk about it with family members or, like my mom or dad or something. That night I'll have a dream where I feel like on the essay day, taking the test, and then all of a sudden they say time. And I still have half the test to go. I've had that recurring dream a few times and just wake up in a cold sweat and be, I already took it. Okay.
Yeah. It's
been a little bit difficult to kind of take myself out of the bar test, the bar exam itself and the preparation. But taking a few days up in Sonoma this week got me kind of out of that zone.
Good. And maybe we'll call this some form of talk therapy in terms of letting go of it.
Yeah. No, this is helping too as well.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed for one and done, Hendrick.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, as always, thank you for being on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening today. Please email us at podcast@coopers.law with questions, comments, feedback, and any thoughts or experiences you have on decisions to go to law school or your bar stories. Like what you heard? Share us with a colleague and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. To all of you doing justice out there, happy hunting.